Hello everyone, it's Sade here. I wanted to put together a special video today for the folks that are interested in working in excess proceeds or overages. I get a lot of emails, questions, phone calls, and things like that regarding this particular topic. So I thought I'll throw something together for the people that want to understand more about it, even though you've already heard the term. What does it really mean, and how can you get started? So the excess proceeds, of course, are those proceeds or funds that are left over after a foreclosure sale has taken place. And they're typically because the property sold for higher than what was owed on it. And it's not as a result of a credit bid. Usually it's not as a result of a resale of the property. So it's essentially the very first time that the property went to auction, the foreclosing party was able to get more money than what was owed to that foreclosing party. So in the case of tax foreclosure sales, the sale is because somebody failed to pay his or her property taxes for a while, and the county decided to move forward and do a foreclosure. They have to first go through a court proceeding and then get a court order to be able to do that sale. Once that happens, the sale takes place. Whoever purchases the property pays the county a certain amount, which is the market value usually, and then the highest bidder is the person that would get the property at auction. So the highest bidder pays typically whatever the market value is, and the highest bidder gets title to the property. And once they pay that amount, let's say the property sold for $100,000, but the person that owned the property before only owed $20,000 in taxes. That means there will be $80,000 in excess proceeds, just as a straight, simple math. So we look at those funds and they're called excess proceeds. The law then states that the homeowner, the previous homeowner that owned that property before it went to foreclosure, that's the party that would have a right to claim the excess funds, but subject to certain lien holders that might have priority over that homeowner's claim. So sometimes there are lien holders that need to be paid off from the excess proceeds. Sometimes there's nobody that needs to be paid off, so that all of the $80,000 in that example will belong to the homeowner. So when you hear people talking about the overage business, they mean that they're trying to figure out whether there are overages out there and try to connect people with those overages. So they're doing the homeowners a favor in the sense that they tell them about their right, potentially to claim those funds, and they also find the homeowners. So there are two things that people do when they say they're in the business of overages. They're either finding the assets or finding the parties, or both. And then, of course, I'm a lawyer, so my role is very different. I'm essentially claiming the funds for those people when they come to me. And some locators would work with lawyers, so that means when they find the homeowner, they then recommend some lawyers for them to work with because they trust those lawyers. So that's pretty much what the overage business looks like. In the case of the mortgage foreclosures, the overage is calculated the same, except that the foreclosing party is a mortgage company. And so the mortgage company will do the foreclosure. They'll start with an opening bid, and then the highest bidder gets the property if there's anybody that bids on it. And most times people would bid on the properties, and the highest bidder gets title, and whatever is left over is what we call the excess proceeds, and the owner can claim that as well, as long as there are no other liens that must be paid. So the tax foreclosure sales tend to be easier to figure out because the county does the calculations and they sometimes publish their lists. So I'll go over certain ways that you can find those lists and just give you more information on how things work and how you can go about getting started with really paying $0. And once you get a hang of what the lists look like and where you'll be working, and you figure out the laws in your state by talking to a local lawyer in the state where you'll be working, then you'll be able to get a hang of it, and you'll be able to find people and inform them of their rights. And what a great way to make additional income or have a rewarding line of work where people are actually happy when you call them, and you are helping them improve their lives at the same time as you getting paid. So that's why I like this line of work, and hopefully this video is helpful to you in getting started and gives you some confidence and encouragement that you're able to do it too, because it's not that complicated. It's just something that needs to be learned. It's not that complicated. It's just something that you might need somebody to show you ways to do it effectively. And once you get a hang of it, it's easier and easier. And if you don't mind talking to people and telling them that they have money that they're entitled to, then this type of work would be for you as well. So I promise you, this is real. It is something that's out there. People are doing it, people like you and I. And also people that are not lawyers are doing it, because your role is very different. You don't have to be a lawyer to do this. You don't have to have any formal training other than a desire to help people, a desire to improve your own financial situation, and also maybe you just desire to do something positive for other people and yourself. It's a very rewarding line of work for that reason, because you're helping people that have already gone through a terrible situation like foreclosure and bringing them a surprise gift, out of the blue, which is amazing. So I want to go over really quickly the things that I think you have to have, like what kind of skills, what kind of knowledge you have to have at minimum to be successful at this, because I don't believe in doing things halfway if your goal is to be successful. I believe that the only difference between people that make it in any kind of work or line of work and people that don't make it is that the other people quit too soon, or they weren't fully committed. So you do have to be fully in or not. And then you make that decision within yourself. The skills are very easily learnable. And some of the skills you already do have, because we all have different skill sets that we bring from our different experiences from the past. So let me go over the things that I think are the minimum things that you should at least know before you get started. I have to start out by saying you could actually do this business with $0 invested upfront, because all the tools that you need are typically out there available for free. And that's for certain types of foreclosure sales, like the tax sales, for instance. You might have to invest a little bit of money sometimes to get lists, but that shouldn't cost you more than $50 to get started. And then the next thing that I think you need to know, that it doesn't take a ton of time. You don't need to do this full time. People that are successful at it, some of them do it full time because they're really, really motivated doing it. They love doing it, and they have big goals, like they want to make a ton of money. Some people make six-figure incomes doing it part-time. So it is possible to do it part-time and still make good money. So those are the things that I thought, preliminary things to get out of the way. So what else do you need? You need to have knowledge. That's really the key. And when I say knowledge, I mean you have to understand really what excess proceeds means. Like, what is the business about? So you have to have a good grasp of that. You have to have that fire. You have to have that fire that makes you want to learn more about it. So of course there's no shortcut. There is no get rich quick scheme or anything involved. You have to be ethical and honest. Those are just no-brainers, but it is doable, and it's able to be learned pretty quickly. So I will be putting out a training in August for those people that are interested in speeding up their knowledge, but I'm going to be also putting out free content for other people that just want to take it slow and learn as they go. So here is what I think you need. I think you need to have a good grasp on what exactly are excess proceeds. They are sometimes called by different names, like surplus funds, overages, and things like that. So just get an idea what the lingo is and what it means, and also how to calculate the excess proceeds and what all goes into that. You also have to fully understand what your role would be. Are you going to be an asset locator, a beneficiary locator, or both? Also, what kind of business structure do you want to set up, or do you want to do this as a sole proprietor first and see where it goes before you figure out whether you want to start a real corporation to do this work? It's not required in most states that you have a corporation to do it, and some states do require licensing, so you also have to understand what are the requirements in the state where you'll be working. You're not restricted to working within your own state, but some people find it easier mentally to start in their state. So talk to a lawyer that's in your state to find out whether there are restrictions, that the state puts in place, and what are they. You also have to figure out whether there are limitations on the fees that a locator can collect in that state as well. You have to understand the differences between a tax lien state or a tax deed state when it comes to those tax sales as well. And of course, you have to interview lawyers to see which ones can help you, especially in your state, of course, because they know more about the real estate laws. You have to contact a lawyer that you feel confident is able to do the work, because once you find the people, you will have to recommend a lawyer to them, because a lot of lawyers don't do this type of work. So you should have some kind of rapport with a couple of lawyers, or at least one really good one that would agree to take those cases if you need to refer people out. In addition to the skills that I just mentioned, I think that you also have to be really, really, really good with skip tracing. I mean, that's a big deal, because that does make the difference between the people that are super successful and the people that just do okay or barely get anything done in this line of work. So you should be able to do skip tracing, figure out how to do it, learn from people that are good at it. You have free tools for that, and then there's some paid tools as well. You should also be able to figure out how to confirm available overages in some situations when you need to do that. You should also be able to know where to find lists, especially the tax sales excess proceeds lists. The post foreclosure lists for the mortgages are more rare, but there are still ways to find those as well. In addition to finding those, you should be able to analyze the lists to be able to get information out that you need, and determine really quickly whether a list is useful to you or not. And you want to be very organized. It makes your life easier, it makes your work easier, and it makes things repeatable and easy to delegate to other people if you're very organized. And checklists are your best friends to make sure you're not skipping steps. As far as talking to people, of course, it's easier if you're more extroverted naturally, but you don't have to be an extrovert to talk to strangers. All you have to do is to know that you're bringing them good news. And so you should be very good on the phones. If you're going to be the one calling those people, and a call script is not a bad idea until you get very, very comfortable with the phone calls. And of course, you should also know what questions to ask the lawyers that you will be working with. So those are some other things that I thought were worth mentioning. And hopefully me putting this video together helps you with some of those things, especially just dive right in, and then it will make more sense as I go along if you've not yet done any research on excess proceeds. So excess proceeds occur when the foreclosure sale price is higher than the total owed on the loan to the foreclosing party. That's for the mortgage foreclosures. Sometimes the foreclosing party is not a mortgage company, but a tax office in that county. And when that happens, then of course the excess proceeds will be the result of the difference between the foreclosure sale price and the total owed on the property taxes. So that's pretty much the simple formula to keep in mind. There are many other things that we have to look at, but for the tax sales, it's pretty much more straightforward than the mortgage foreclosure sales. So I wanted to give you a starter, something you can run with and work on and make some money, especially in 2020 when everything is upside down. So this is an area that's never going to be upside down, because it's just a natural consequence of home ownership and the fact that life sometimes throws us curves and there are financial difficulties. So when those excess proceeds happen, the laws in almost every state would say that the property owner has a right to claim those excess proceeds, subject to some junior lien holders that have priority over that homeowner. And so when you step in, your role is as a locator to be able to identify, oh, there are excess proceeds, and B, those excess proceeds likely belong to Mr. Smith, and how can I then find Mr. Smith to show him his money? And then for you doing that, you get paid. Usually it's a percentage of whatever the amount is that the claimant is able to get. So I'll just dive right in and it will make more sense as I go along. So it's very easy to wrap your brain around. Anybody can do it. Anybody that has some fire in them and is interested in changing maybe the generational curve as far as financial success goes. And of course, it's also very emotionally rewarding because you're helping people, to get money as well, especially people that have already gone through a bad situation like a foreclosure. So it's really, really rewarding for me personally, even though I do this as a lawyer, and your role is different, but we're all in it together, helping people find their money. So we have to just classify these things into tax sales and mortgage sales. Keep that in mind. So today's video will talk about both, but the first segment is going to talk about the tax sales because I think those ones are easier to learn really fast and easier to find the funds really quickly, and the funds are typically guaranteed to be there so that you can not waste your time and you can be sure that you can get a percentage of whatever the homeowner makes. And in some states, there will be restrictions on whatever percentage you're able to claim or whether you're able to claim a percentage at all. So there are many states that have restrictions, either that based on a percentage, based on a flat rate that you must charge or whatnot. But it's still lucrative overall, regardless of all the restrictions. And you do have to be able to pick which counties you're interested in working. And of course, you have to decide what states you want to work with based on how much limitations they put on locators and things. All right, so we've gone over a lot. I don't want to overwhelm you with information in one video, and I think that this will get you started. The steps really are what I discussed already. Basically, you have to know where you will be working, find a list, and then make sure you're professional and make sure you're ethical, because those are the people that do well in the long run. So you have to be ethical about it. Obviously, you have to be honest with people, and you yourself have to be quite dedicated and resilient, because when you're contacting people, you get a lot of no's at first, and then you eventually will get some yeses, and those could be the game changers. It's just to encourage you, to let you know that you could make a decision, and that decision could quite literally change your life in many ways, and it will change the homeowners' lives as well. Because I'm a lawyer, the checks will go directly to my law firm, and you as a locator, your relationship with the homeowner or claimant is going to be different depending on what state you're in. Sometimes you're allowed or not to be able to get paid by locating the people. Sometimes you're allowed to get paid by locating the assets. So that would affect how you structure your work. But here are some examples, not to tell you that this is what you're going to be able to do, but just to give you real life evidence that these things are real and they do happen, and you're actually able to do it, because there's some locators that are making money from being able to help people find the assets, or sometimes they make money because they're helping to find the people and they get paid that way. And usually they get a percentage of whatever it is that the homeowner gets. Sometimes it's a flat amount that they get depending on the limitations in that state. So it is possible to make money doing this. I just wanted to show you that real quick so that you don't get discouraged, so that you understand that it really is real, and you should be able to do the work successfully if you are willing to learn. It works if you work it. Found this video helpful, please remember to subscribe to my channel so that you can continue to receive future video notifications. And if you like this particular video, please click like, because it does encourage me when people are giving me some feedback on the channel, it helps me continue to put out the free content. I know there are lots of people that are thinking this is a good year to get started with different projects and start a new line of work. And so that's really why I'm putting this out sooner than I originally planned to, and hopefully you have gained some knowledge from it. If it's not for you and you think a friend of yours might find it helpful, remember to pass this video on to them as well. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll talk to you next time.